They're going to introduce themselves, and then we're going to go video reel in about 2.5 minutes to watch. I highly suggest that you watch this because it's epic. No pun intended. So would you please introduce yourself?
I'm Shannon Watts, so I am the CMO for Samsung New Zealand. Obviously New Zealand is a small part of the world, but yeah, historically have been in the world of L'Oreal and Mars and lots of other FMCG, so last few years in the Samsung world.
Yeah, kia ora. I'm Haydn Kerr, Executive Creative Director at Tribal within the DDB Group. And yeah, so I was part of the creative team that came up with this and delivered this project.
Hi everyone, I'm James Blair, the Managing Director of Tribal. We're all the way from New Zealand, so think of us with the jet lag. We're, whole world away, and it's winter there, so nice and warm here in Cairn, but it's great to be here and look forward to telling you the story of iTest. Cool, so we might play the video if that's cool.
Can we get the video rolling?
Apple's
Walled garden.
Walled garden.
Walled garden.
To lock in users to its walled garden.
A $1 billion battle royale between Apple and Epic Games.
How about this next one? Samsung, they did something. If you and I were from the UK, we would say that they did something cheeky.
I'm not really used to Android. I never had an Android device, but here we have now the chance to experience Android on our iPhones.
Yes, you heard that right.
When I click next and watch this, you click let's go and look at the phone. This is pretty crazy.
Now, if you've been with iPhone for a long time and it's all you really know, then that could be stopping you from even stepping into the Android ecosystem. And that's what Samsung is trying to fix today.
It's buttery smooth, guys. You have the side cards, the Google search up top. This is insane. I'm getting notifications.
Welcome to the other side.
It's just really fun. Like, everything has something unique when you click on it.
You can launch apps, you can tap on widgets.
You can even change themes. So right now I have this theme on. I'm going to hit apply and it'll change over to this theme just like you would on any other Galaxy phone.
There's a camera tutorial from photographer Logan Dodd.
This is a fully functional game. Wow!
These are my top 5 favorite new iOS apps to hit the App Store during the month of April 2021.
Obviously, they're not going to put this into the App Store because imagine Android on the App Store.
If you want to try this out for yourself, just head over to itest.nz and you'll be immediately prompted to add this website as a shortcut to your home screen.
What do you think about this, Will? Is this brilliant marketing? Is this cheeky in a good way or cheeky in a bad way?
I think it's cheeky in a good way.
So not shots fired?
Well, I mean, if you're rocking an iPhone, you gotta try this.
Hey, you. Have you ever experienced Galaxy?
Well, not really.
What if you could in your iPhone?
That's possible?
Yeah. Just visit trygalaxy.com and download and step into Galaxy. Ta-da!
Incredible. What else?
Glad you asked. Whoa! Try Galaxy on your iPhone.
I love technology.
Amazing. That's super slick. Yes, round of applause for the creativity thereof. So in our prep session, James, you had said this is probably one of the most interesting briefs that you ever came across. Probably one of the most difficult. Walk us through this brief.
Yeah, certainly. Well, it's one of the hardest briefs, I reckon, and we've talked about this internally quite a bit, mainly because you can sort of ask a question back and say, what would it be like to lose a limb? And then I think, everyone's phone is a connection of themselves. We can't go 15, 20 seconds without checking it, right? And so to have a phone and have a piece of technology that we could sort of subvert that with was the key with this brief. I mean, I think we talk about the walled garden in here, and Apple very much has a walled garden. It's very hard to get into that said garden. there's a whole bunch of technology that is connected to that phone, making it really impossible to sort of talk to anyone who has a device about Samsung, really, because they're not there for it. They're not listening. And so this technology, that we developed was that sort of key into the walled garden. We were lucky to sort of, I suppose, develop from there. Anything else from you, mate?
Oh, yeah, it is. It is the hardest brief in advertising. I think Shannon will probably tell us that 90% of people who have an iPhone are just going to buy another iPhone. They've been using this technology for 10 years. They're used to it. It's so comfortable to them. And so Samsung just feels so unnatural. So we really had to break that myth.
So Shannon, this notion of switching, maybe losing a limb is a lot, but this idea of switching is core. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess when we look at Samsung in terms of smartphones, we perform really well, but particularly with those people that are 30 years and plus. And I guess the challenge that we face with switching is if you're given an iPad when you're young and you're maybe watching Peppa Pig, later on you move forward, you've given a phone around 12. We know about at the age of 12, 66% of kids have a smartphone. By 14 is 95%, so everyone. And then, maybe from there it's that for your birthday or Christmas, it's AirPods, watch. You really are trapped in the ecosystem. And, Apple, I guess, they're a bit of a religion, almost like a cult. And so once you're in there, there is no reason when you go to upgrade that you would consider something different because, it's all you know and you're fully integrated. And so I think for us, really targeting the Gen MZ, so critical for us to be able to get in at that earlier stages in order to come through the life cycle. Otherwise, we miss out as a brand. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges we have. We need to take from Apple in order to win, and switching is our biggest opportunity to do that.
Right, so we're growing new limbs, right, and we're getting people to switch. This idea of actually changing brain function, this is an incredible idea. Did you have anything to do with that, Haydn?
Changing brain function? No, I can't claim any of that. No.
Okay, got it.
I think that's the myth, really, that, actually in the creative team that came up with this, they said, they were iPhone people. iPhone people. Is that sorry, that's not an ethnicity I've heard of before. Is it in your DNA, really, to be an iPhone person? They said that their brain doesn't work in the right way for Android. But then when we actually got them to switch, and that was the crucial thing. We actually got iPhone-loving team to actually switch to Samsung and have that experience. And they couldn't believe how quick it was. So they learned it is indeed a myth, that it's so hard to change. And then they could start to appreciate what's cool about Samsung, but only after they'd actually got over this barrier and appreciated how similar it actually is.
So tell us a little bit about the execution. How did it start? What were some of the initial objectives and then difficulties thereof? James?
So the idea itself came off a brief for the Note 20 phone. So the Note 20 was, it came out in 2020. As Shannon mentioned, switching is so important to Samsung that we actually have switching on every brief that comes into the agency as a side piece to work on. And so this idea was identified early as one of those ideas that we had to hold on to, to sort of die in the ditch moment for this idea. And so we quite quickly put it off to one side, answered the brief for Note 20. It was a great launch, successful launch in New Zealand, best ever, I'm sure. But we actually focused at that point onto the eye test piece. And it was a partnership between the agencies. So early on, we agreed that it would be jointly owned by both Tribal and by Samsung New Zealand. And therefore, we were going to invest in it accordingly. So it was 6 months of hard graft to work on it and to get it to live. And I suppose throughout the whole journey, there was lots of, will this actually work? Can we do this? But because we had that sort of joint ownership and that joint investment in the project, it grew from there, really. And we'll talk in a minute about what then went on to happen once it went live, because it's the most effective ROI you could imagine for the launch.
So, Shannon, here you are in New Zealand. You work for a major organization, lots of regional offices, local offices. You come to this idea. What was the internal reaction?
Right. So, I think what we hadn't anticipated is just how big it would become. One of the stats that showed in the video is that we had 15 million people download iTest. So it very quickly made global headlines. And, internally, we're a very innovative company, Samsung, but also have quite a controlled structure. And probably a no surprise approach is the preference that's taken. And so for us, trying to explain to HQ why our little one-off marketing stunt has become, bigger than Ben-Hur was interesting. But they really cottoned onto it quickly. I think they were really supportive and interested to know more. They were after so much detail, and I think what we found from that, the reason why, is they were looking to take it global. So, a really great success story for little New Zealand.
That's amazing. And just for those of you who have just joined us, what we're going to jump into here, we're talking about 15 million iPhone users that had a Samsung interface on their phone and got a chance to play with it. And for those that missed the beginning, that's pretty incredible that you can actually do that in the walled garden. So in that context, what were the technical difficulties to do that?
Well, we found a key under the mat. I don't know if anyone from Apple is here, but it's like we found, the Death Star's got that one weakness. I'm not comparing Apple to the Death Star, but they have very good security. They've built this walled garden, but there is a key that's under the mat, and that's called a progressive web app. So basically, we're able to...
A progressive web
app.
A progressive web app.
Yeah, there we go. So obviously, we can't get into the App Store, but what we could make is a website that would function like an app. And so if you haven't get a chance to download it, I suggest you do. Go to trygalaxy.com in Safari, and it'll prompt you to actually install it on your iPhone from a website. And so that allows it to actually become a whole screen, whole environment experience.
The other thing to add to that is we had to think a little bit about, the website itself, because once we had the key, as Haydn says, and once we knew that it could be done through a progressive web app, we had to emulate, as an agency, the thousands of development hours that go into the One UI product, which Samsung, develops in-house at headquarters in South Korea. So we have an amazing team. I can't hand out any business cards because we want to hang on to them, of developers that just work tirelessly to get absolutely every interaction right. So when you scroll across, when you click on an app, all those animations that have been built into the UI are built into this website. So I feel like every day we are pushing the realms of what is possible within a website, but so far all the conversations with the UX team in South Korea have been positive. They're very happy that we are replicating that experience in a website at the moment, which is great.
So, Shannon, I'm going to ask you a question just one sec, but before we do, I want to understand a little bit, how did people know about this?
Yeah, like any campaign, there was a moment where we had to go live. It's more than a campaign, as it's a piece of technology, but that we did need a campaign to get users on it. But we saw this as a tool, and we'll talk about tools again in the future and coming up. But because it's a tool, it still needs people to test it and try it. But we wanted to run it as a bit of a beta test for at least a month. And so we ran one ad through Facebook. I think it had $250 worth of boosting, New Zealand dollars, so that's literally nothing. And that one ad said, ready to compare apples with Androids, ? And we just left it there. And basically, a week later, we were in our agency whip sitting down, going through the numbers, and someone said, there's 17,000 people on the website right now. And we were like, how could that be possible? Because we've literally only put this one ad live. But what had happened was Mac rumors had picked it up, and so there's a bit of irony in that these Mac adorers were actually doing our job for us. They were marketing this product through their forums, and off it went. So I think we hit 1 million within the first week. All those early adopters that just had to get their hands on it, and it went from there, basically.
Yeah, so Mac Rumors picked up this announcement that you could run Galaxy, and they said this can't be true, and you got the propagation of the idea from these folks that maybe didn't want it to go viral. So let's talk about the business outcomes and what your focus was, right? Because it's great to get awareness. Was awareness the business outcome? Was it switches? How do you look at that?
Yeah, there's a few things there. Obviously, firstly, the 15 million. That's amazing that they're playing in the Samsung world. And I guess if you think a 30-second TV ad works, then to have all of these consumers installing Samsung on their phones and immersing themselves in the Samsung world for an average of 7 minutes, how effective is that? We had a huge number of brand mentions, over 1 million online. Additionally, the tech guys, whether it was the tech sites or the tech influencers, thousands and thousands of pieces of content or earned content, which was fantastic. Then when we look at the data in terms of sales, everyone that went on to try Galaxy or iTest were 2.5 times more likely to go onto Samsung.com and look at our product pages. And from those that were there, we then saw the sales conversion they were 1.6 times more likely to purchase. So, fantastic results all the way through the funnel, even though initially, and we still haven't put anything that's really provocative in terms of purchasing, and we did that purposely to ensure that it was, a consumer experience and not a sales driver. I think probably one of the last pieces is 96% of consumers that tried Galaxy came away with a far better perception of Galaxy. So you can't ask for much more than that. Really important in the switching journey.
Like an NPS score of sorts.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's a really positive sentiment. And, I guess we were taking away the fear, which is something that was really important, of this unknown other side.
Yeah. So I would imagine we're changing perception, we're changing both external and internal. That requires quite the collaboration amongst the three of you and the various departments that you all work with. Can you walk us through how that came about?
It wouldn't have been possible without a lot of people wanting this so badly. And the line between agency and client was extremely fluid, all genuinely working together, and a lot of people sort of really going beyond their skill set.
I think the other piece as well with this one is that we all know switching is the most important brief. I think Shannon and her team talk about it most of the time when we're talking about briefs. But it is that sort of one area that we can go to as a team and know that those ideas are the ones that we hold dear. I talked about dying in the ditch a little bit, and that's the case for all briefs. We actually had a campaign before this one, and it was a true campaign that didn't go as well. And I think that is testament to the fact that we all lean in around switching. We try some stuff, it doesn't always work, and then sometimes you get to come to Cannes and talk about it because it does work, and it's an amazing result. But to have that relationship where we know that we've got that one area that we can focus creatively and sort of have no holds barred, it's great.
So in America, we have this statement that says the single shot heard around the world. So New Zealand being the single campaign heard around the world, tell us how the global rollout happened after the test. What did that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, it was about a year worth of iTest being iTest, and New Zealand was essentially keeping the lights on for everyone around the world, running iTest, even though New Zealand quite quickly became one of the lower ranking countries that was actually using the technology. So we ran it for a year, and then quite quickly Samsung decided that it would be a suitable tool to add to the mix of things that they were using to encourage switching. And at that point, it was renamed to Try Galaxy and has now been launched in a number of different languages, including in the languages such as Arabic, where you actually have to move because they read right to left. We have to move the whole experience across. So there's a lot of different components to it that we had to consider at that point, including working with Samsung Global. So our team in New Zealand remains, but we now have a direct relationship with the team in Samsung Global and develop for them as an outsourced agency partner for Try Galaxy. They do the marketing and we do the app development ongoing.
Great. Anybody want to add about the global footprint rollout to that?
No, but I mean, we get to hang our hat on that over and over again, as you can imagine. Love to, as a little country, to milk some things that have rolled out globally. But no, I just think, it's been amazing. And I find that often with New Zealand, that as a small country, we can sometimes go under the radar, maybe push the boundaries a little bit further. And, it does allow us to maybe punch above our weight often because, it is something that we have the opportunity to do with a small scale and quite a fluid and agile team.
Are you going to say something, Aiden? No? No, you're good. So there will be questions here in a second. So for those of you that have already downloaded it, we'll ask what your experience is with all of that. So give us 1 second. So let's talk about the notion of innovation. I think this is a term that's probably used a lot and doesn't always warrant the term. And
this is probably my biggest learning from this whole experience is Samsung is an innovative company. I have a phone here that folds. They've made folding glass. And so normally we love to talk about that. Hey, listen to what's cool and new and interesting. But actually, to an iPhone user, we actually sometimes are just reinforcing the idea that this is scary, that this Samsung world is different and so new. So actually, it's really important when you're focusing on switching, if you want to win a new customer, tell them what's similar. Actually, that it's not that different. You know what I mean? Instead of, we always want to talk about point of difference. Sometimes you actually have to talk about point of similarity. So I think what's innovative is that it addresses people's fear of innovation and actually welcomes you in and says, hey, the other side is not so scary.
That's an excellent point. That's a really point. Do we have a microphone? For those who have any questions, you want to raise your hand if you have a microphone? Excuse me, if anybody has any questions for the esteemed panel here? Okay, not just yet.
we didn't offer Foo Fighters tickets. That was a mistake.
All right. That's all right. That's okay. That's okay. So I want to go back to one piece about the media effort, right? So this was the folks with Mac Rumors. They picked it up, and then you had to run with that and say, okay, am I going to get a call at some point from some other company that would say, hey, you guys allowed to do this? Did that happen? Did anybody call?
No, I mean, I think we're legally pretty clean. I mean, it's one of those experiences where we weren't in the App Store, so we weren't actually, getting in that position where we might cause offense or raise an eyebrow, So I think what we were lucky is that we had this key that was left under the mat with the progressive web app, and then because we were from New Zealand, I think we were able to be cheeky for a while. I mean, it is called Try Galaxy now, and I think with the team have sort of we've gotten to a point where it actually has some maturity to it, and we don't need to worry too much about being as pointed and direct as sort of potentially iTest was as a name. But again, I think beyond that, all we're doing is taking the Android system and putting it into an environment. It's our own UI, it's our own experience, and we found a way to do it.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think when the idea did blow up, Tribal were probably expecting us to put the brakes on because, it was like, oh no, what's going on here? But interestingly, our marketing manager at the time just said, ride the lightning. So, off they went, and yeah, it worked.
Yeah, we have that saying up on our wall at the office, ride the lightning. It's taken on lots of meanings, but that one was particularly special, yeah.
As a Samsung owner, I don't see myself as cheeky, but I might have to bring that into my diatribe a little bit. Are there any questions that anybody would like to ask our guests? No? Is there anything else that you would like to offer?
No.
Is some other insights that I didn't get to?
No, I think that's it. I mean, it's an amazing experience to be here, and please do try it. It is quite a cool piece of technology. There are moments within it where you can really show off having an Android device in your hand. So give it a go. TryGalaxy.com. Cool.
But before we go, hold on. There's one question. The microphone's coming up. Thank you.
Hi. We're at the Festival of Creativity. So how has the creative community embraced the success of this campaign and the actual work?
We've been very lucky. For a tiny campaign from the end of the world, it's been totally embraced globally. I mean, I don't know if you realize, it's probably, you don't want to talk about it at Cannes, but we did get the black pencil from D&AD. There's only been 100 odd of those given out in the last 50 years, but they gave it to this tiny website built in New Zealand. So we feel very honored and very lucky.
We expect to see many lions coming out of New Zealand. I don't know if you guys regularly have those. Well, congratulations. It's really fantastic. You deserve a lot of credit. Well done.
Appreciate it. Thank you.